Welcome back to History for Sleep. This channel is a place to slow the world down, to let curiosity wander without pressure, and to explore humanity's past in a calm, thoughtful way. If you enjoy long, immersive history that helps you relax, unwind, or drift into sleep, you're in the right place. Tonight, we're going beyond the pyramids. Because while the pyramids of Egypt are extraordinary, they are only one part of a much larger and far more mysterious story. Across the ancient world, civilizations built megastructures so vast, so precise, and so difficult to explain that even today, we still debate how they were possible. Some of these structures were built before metal tools, before the wheel, before writing, before what we usually consider civilization itself. And yet they stand, perfectly aligned, impossibly heavy, enduring for thousands of years. Tonight, we'll explore the most baffling ancient megastructures ever discovered. We'll look at what archaeology and history can confidently tell us, where the evidence becomes uncertain, and where theories and conspiracies begin to emerge, not to sensationalize the past, but to understand it more honestly. Because the greatest mystery is not whether ancient people were capable. It's how much knowledge may have existed, and how much of it may have been lost. When modern people imagine ancient engineering, we often picture simple tools and endless labor. But the archaeological record suggests something more refined. Precision without machinery, scale without engines, alignment without computers, planning without written blueprints. Stone blocks weighing tens, sometimes hundreds of tons were moved, shaped, and placed with astonishing accuracy. Seams so tight that even today, a sheet of paper cannot slide between them. Angles cut so precisely they appear machine-made. Structures oriented to celestial events with remarkable consistency. These are not accidents. They are results. And results imply understanding. Let's begin in South America. High in the Andes Mountains, where thin air makes physical labor exhausting, lie some of the most extraordinary stone structures ever created. At sites like Sacsayhuaman, Ollantaytambo, and Pumapunku, massive stone blocks are fitted together in ways that defy simple explanation. The stones are not uniform. They are irregular, many-sided, complexly shaped, yet they interlock perfectly. No mortar, no gaps, no visible allowance for movement. Some individual blocks weigh over 100 tons. To achieve this, builders would have needed advanced planning, spatial awareness, and a deep understanding of stone as a material. Local legends tell of stones that were softened, of builders who could shape rock as if it were clay, of knowledge lost after a great catastrophe. Mainstream archaeology offers more cautious explanations. Stone hammers, copper tools, abrasives, human labor over generations. These methods can account for some shaping, but not all details. No tool marks clearly match expected techniques. No definitive quarries explain transport routes. And later cultures in the region were unable to replicate the same level of precision. This suggests a break in knowledge. And breaks in knowledge often follow collapse. Moving across the world to the Middle East, we encounter Baalbek. In modern-day Lebanon, beneath later Roman ruins, lies a massive stone platform constructed from some of the largest quarried blocks ever moved by humans. The trilithon stones each weigh more than 800 tons. They were cut, transported, and placed with extraordinary accuracy. The Romans, known for their engineering mastery, built their temple complex directly on top of this platform. They did not attempt to remove the stones. They did not attempt to replicate them. They built around them. This suggests even Roman engineers viewed these blocks as belonging to an earlier tradition. How were stones of this size moved? How were they lifted? How were they aligned so precisely? Modern cranes struggle with similar weights. Some theories propose massive ramps. Others suggest sledges and rollers. Some argue for lost lifting techniques. All are possible. None are proven. And none fully explain the precision involved. Further north, in southeastern Turkey, lies Göbekli Tepe. This site changed our understanding of prehistory entirely. Dated to more than 11,000 years ago, it predates agriculture, pottery, and metalworking. Yet it consists of massive T-shaped stone pillars arranged in carefully planned circular enclosures. Each pillar is carved with animals, symbols, and abstract imagery. Foxes, serpents, birds, scorpions. This was not a settlement. No homes, no cooking areas, no evidence of daily life. Göbekli Tepe appears to have been a ceremonial site, built by hunter-gatherers. This challenges one of archaeology's oldest assumptions, that complex societies emerged only after farming. Göbekli Tepe suggests the opposite, that belief, ritual, and shared meaning may have come first, and that civilization followed. Perhaps most mysterious of all, the site was deliberately buried, carefully filled in, layer by layer, as if intentionally sealed. Why would a society invest enormous effort to construct something, only to bury it? Theories range from ritual closure to environmental change, but no explanation is fully satisfying. As we move eastward into Asia, the mysteries continue. Off the coast of Japan lies the Yonaguni Monument. Submerged beneath the ocean, it features massive stone terraces, sharp angles, and step-like formations. Some scientists argue it is entirely natural. Others believe erosion alone cannot explain its geometry. If this structure were on land, few would doubt human involvement. But underwater, certainty becomes elusive. Sea levels were far lower during the last ice age. Entire coastlines now submerged were once habitable. If early coastal civilizations existed, much of their evidence lies beneath the sea. This is not speculation. It is geology. And it means much of human history may be hidden. Across Africa, Great Zimbabwe stands as proof of advanced stone engineering without mortar. But beyond it lie older, lesser-known structures. Stone circles, long walls, enclosures whose purposes remain unclear. Some align with astronomical events, others with ancient trade routes, others with nothing obvious at all. In Europe, Stonehenge is only the most famous example. Thousands of stone alignments, circles, and walls stretch across fields, forests, and hills. Many predate written history. Many appear suddenly already sophisticated. Why were they built? Who coordinated them? And what knowledge guided their construction? As we continue, we'll explore these questions in greater depth. We'll examine lost techniques, global patterns, alternative timelines, and the controversial idea that ancient knowledge may have risen, fallen, and been forgotten more than once. For now, let the mind slow. There is no need to solve everything. No need to reach conclusions. History does not reveal itself all at once. It unfolds quietly, stone by stone, question by question, and we are only just beginning. Take a slow breath and continue listening. Across continents and thousands of years, these ancient megastructures share something unsettling in common. They appear suddenly in the archaeological record, not as crude experiments, not as gradual improvements, but as fully realized achievements. This pattern repeats again and again. In Egypt, the earliest large pyramids are also the most precise. Later pyramids are smaller, less accurate, and sometimes structurally flawed. In South America, earlier stonework is tighter, heavier, and more complex than what came after. Later cultures repaired, reused, and built atop what already existed. At Baalbek, Roman temples rest on stones they never attempted to move. At Göbekli Tepe, later people buried the site rather than expand it. This suggests a reversal of the story we often tell ourselves. Instead of constant progress, the past may include periods of decline. Instead of primitive beginnings, there may have been forgotten peaks. This idea is uncomfortable. It challenges the belief that modern humans are the inevitable result of steady advancement. But history rarely moves in straight lines. Civilizations rise. They flourish. They fracture. They forget. And when knowledge is lost, it can take generations to even realize what has disappeared. One of the most persistent questions surrounding ancient megastructures is how stone was worked with such precision. Granite, basalt, diorite. These are among the hardest materials on Earth. Modern builders use diamond-tipped tools to cut them. Yet ancient sites show evidence of smooth surfaces, right angles, and internal corners that are extremely difficult to achieve even today. Mainstream explanations rely on patience and abrasion. Sand, water, time. And while these methods can work, they require extraordinary labor and coordination. But the scale of these projects suggests more than brute force. It suggests systems, standardized measurements, shared techniques, training over generations, and possibly tools or methods we no longer recognize. Some researchers propose the use of simple machines we underestimate. Levers, counterweights, inclined planes refined through experience. Others propose lost techniques such as stone softening, acoustic vibration, or chemical processes. There is no definitive evidence for these more exotic ideas. But absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Organic materials decay. Knowledge transmitted orally disappears. If advanced methods relied on materials like wood, plant resins, or natural compounds, they would leave little trace. What survives is stone. And stone remembers shape, not process. Another mystery lies in alignment. Across the ancient world, structures are oriented to the heavens. Pyramids align to true north with astonishing accuracy. Stone circles tracking solstices and equinoxes. Temples align to stars that no longer occupy the same positions due to precession. This implies long-term observation, careful record-keeping, and an understanding of cycles that extend beyond a single lifetime. Why was this so important? Some believe these alignments served practical purposes. Calendars, agricultural planning, navigation. Others believe they served symbolic roles, connecting the earthly to the cosmic, embedding human life within larger rhythms. And some suggest something more provocative, that ancient civilizations possessed a deeper understanding of Earth's relationship to the sky, of cycles of catastrophe, of ages marked by change. Throughout ancient myths we find recurring stories: great floods, fire from the sky, the fall of advanced societies, survivors passing knowledge to the future. These myths appear independently across cultures separated by oceans. While myths are not history, they are memory, distorted, symbolic, but often rooted in real events. Geological evidence confirms that at the end of the last ice age, Earth experienced dramatic climate shifts. Melting ice sheets, rising seas, catastrophic floods. Entire coastlines vanished. River systems changed. Habitats collapsed. If advanced societies existed along coasts or fertile plains, much of their evidence would be underwater. This raises an unsettling possibility that some of the builders of ancient megastructures inherited fragments of knowledge from even earlier cultures. Not aliens, not magic, but humans, just like us, trying to preserve what they could after disaster. Some researchers suggest ancient sites were intentionally built to last. Stone instead of wood, elevation instead of lowlands, geometry instead of decoration, messages embedded in permanence. If knowledge was at risk of being lost, stone would be the final archive. But stone alone cannot explain everything, because these sites also show signs of deliberate destruction or burial. Walls toppled, passages sealed, monuments dismantled. Why would builders destroy their own achievements? One possibility is ritual closure, the end of an era, the belief that structures held power that needed to be released or contained. Another possibility is protection, from misuse, from outsiders, from future generations who might not understand. And another possibility is fear. If certain knowledge was dangerous, burying it might have been an act of responsibility. As we move deeper into these mysteries, we must also confront the role of modern bias. For centuries, archaeology dismissed the capabilities of ancient peoples. Precision was assumed impossible. Scale was attributed to slavery. Innovation was denied. Yet time and again, evidence forces reevaluation. Ancient people were not ignorant. They were observant, patient, deeply connected to their environments. They lived closer to natural cycles, and may have understood patterns we have forgotten. This does not mean they had advanced technology as we define it, but it does mean they may have had advanced understanding. And understanding can be more powerful than machines. As you listen, let the mind drift through these possibilities, not to decide what is true, but to allow the past to be more complex than we were taught. We are still learning, and the stones are still waiting. As we look more closely at individual megastructures, a pattern of intentional complexity begins to emerge. These were not random piles of stone. They were designed environments, places meant to be entered, moved through, experienced. Consider the internal passageways of ancient sites. Narrow corridors that suddenly open into vast chambers. Carefully angled shafts that allow light to enter only on specific days. Rooms with acoustics that amplify certain frequencies while muting others. At the Great Pyramid, the so-called King's Chamber resonates at a precise frequency. Stone boxes, often called sarcophagi, fit the chamber so tightly they could not have been brought in after construction. At Chavín de Huántar in Peru, internal galleries channel sound in unsettling ways. Water flowing through hidden canals produces a roaring sound like an animal. Light and darkness are used to disorient. These were experiences, not just buildings. Some researchers believe these sites were used for initiation rituals. Others believe they were places of healing. Still others suggest they were designed to alter perception. This leads to one of the most controversial ideas in ancient history, that megastructures were not only functional or symbolic, but cognitive, that they were built to influence consciousness. Across cultures, we see stone associated with permanence, memory, and transformation. Stone does not rot. It does not burn. It survives. In many traditions, stone marks thresholds between worlds, the living and the dead, the human and the divine, the known and the unknown. If ancient people understood how environment affects the human mind, they may have intentionally designed spaces to guide thought, emotion, and belief. Low light, echoing sound, cold stone, restricted movement. These conditions can induce altered states without substances. This does not require advanced technology, only observation and patience. Now consider the scale again. Why build so large? Why move stones that weigh more than necessary? One explanation is durability. Large stones resist erosion, earthquakes, and human destruction. Another is symbolism. Massive structures communicate power, permanence, and cosmic order. But another possibility is psychological. Scale overwhelms. It humbles. It inspires awe. Awe changes behavior. It creates reverence. It encourages obedience. In this sense, megastructures may have been tools of social cohesion. Shared effort, shared belief, shared memory. Entire communities working towards something that transcended individual lives. This kind of coordination requires leadership, communication, and purpose. It suggests societies more organized than we often imagine. And yet, these societies often left no written records. What? Perhaps writing was not considered necessary. Or perhaps writing existed on materials that did not survive. Or perhaps knowledge was guarded, passed only through oral tradition, apprenticeship, and ritual. Writing fixes ideas. Oral knowledge adapts. In a world without mass literacy, knowledge survives through people, not paper. And people are fragile. When societies collapse, elders die. Apprentices scatter. Lineages break. Within a generation, complex knowledge can vanish. This may explain why later cultures stood in awe of earlier ruins. Why myths speak of gods and giants. Because when knowledge disappears, achievement looks supernatural. Now let's turn to one of the most debated topics in ancient history, the idea of a lost global civilization. This is not accepted by mainstream archaeology, but it persists because certain questions remain unresolved. Similar architectural styles appear across distant cultures. Monumental construction appears suddenly in multiple regions. Myths of a lost golden age appear worldwide. Skeptics argue these similarities arise independently. Human brains solve problems in similar ways. Stone is stone. Gravity is universal. And this is likely true in many cases. But coincidence does not explain everything. The alignment of sites, the repetition of certain symbols, the shared emphasis on cycles of destruction and renewal. Some suggest there may have been limited contact between early cultures. Coastal navigation long before we assume. Trade routes now submerged. If knowledge traveled, it would not need to be global to have global impact. Even a small group of skilled builders moving between regions could leave a disproportionate legacy. Others propose that advanced knowledge existed earlier than we currently accept. Not in the form of industrial civilization, but as high-level understanding of nature, astronomy, geometry, acoustics, hydraulics, knowledge that does not leave obvious artifacts. If such knowledge existed and was lost during climatic upheaval, the survivors would rebuild with fragments. Over time, the original source would be mythologized. Gods who taught humanity, heroes who built impossible things, ages when the world was different. This does not require extraterrestrial intervention, only time and loss. As modern technology advances, we are finally able to test some of these ideas. Laser scanning reveals hidden structures beneath jungles. Ground-penetrating radar uncovers buried foundations. Satellite imagery reveals patterns invisible from the ground. Each year, new discoveries force revisions. What we thought were isolated sites turn out to be networks. What we thought were simple walls turn out to be complex systems. The past is becoming larger, not smaller. More connected, more intelligent, more human. As this understanding grows, the line between history and prehistory begins to blur. And perhaps that is the greatest challenge. Because once we accept that ancient people were capable of extraordinary achievements, we must also accept that modern people are capable of forgetting. And forgetting may be the most powerful force of all. Let these thoughts drift. There is no urgency. No need for conclusions. The stones have waited thousands of years. They can wait a little longer. Let the pace remain slow, and allow the questions to deepen. Whenever ancient megastructures challenge accepted timelines or capabilities, a familiar tension appears. Between curiosity and certainty. Between evidence and interpretation. Between what is known and what feels uncomfortable. This tension has shaped the modern study of ancient history. Archaeology, like all sciences, relies on frameworks, chronologies, assumptions, established models. These models are not wrong, but they are incomplete. And when evidence falls outside them, it creates friction. Throughout history, there are documented cases where discoveries were ignored, delayed, or dismissed because they did not fit prevailing theories. Not out of malice, but out of caution. Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. And that standard is important. But caution can become resistance, especially when evidence threatens to rewrite timelines taught for generations. One example is the recurring discovery of advanced stonework beneath later structures. In Egypt, beneath temples. In Peru, beneath Inca walls. In the Middle East, beneath Roman foundations. In many cases, the lower layers are more precise, more massive, and more complex than what sits above them. This suggests inheritance rather than invention. Later cultures building upon what they found. Repairing, repurposing, revering. This pattern is difficult to reconcile with the idea of linear progress. It implies cycles. Rise, collapse, rediscovery. And with each cycle, something is lost. This brings us to one of the most controversial topics surrounding ancient megastructures: the idea of suppressed history. Not in the sense of a single global conspiracy, but in the quieter sense of institutional inertia. Academic careers are built on accepted interpretations. Funding follows consensus. Textbooks change slowly. When new evidence emerges, it must pass through layers of review, debate, and skepticism. This process can take decades. In the meantime, discoveries sit in storage. Sites remain unexcavated. Anomalies are labeled unresolved. This is not a cover-up. It is a system struggling with its own limits. However, outside academia, speculation fills the gaps. Alternative theories, forbidden archaeology, hidden civilizations, lost technologies. Some of these ideas are imaginative. Some are thoughtful. Some stretch far beyond the evidence. But they persist because questions persist. If ancient people could move stones weighing hundreds of tons, why do we still argue about how? If structures align with celestial cycles thousands of years long, how are those cycles measured? If myths from distant cultures describe similar catastrophes, why? Conspiracy theories often begin where explanation ends. They are attempts to restore coherence. Sometimes they go too far. Sometimes they point to overlooked details. Separating insight from invention requires patience. One of the most popular alternative theories involves advanced ancient technology. Not electricity or engines as we know them, but knowledge-based technology. Techniques that used resonance, frequency, water, geometry. For example, acoustic experiments in ancient chambers show that certain frequencies resonate powerfully within stone spaces. Sound can move matter. It can create standing waves. It can reduce friction under specific conditions. This does not mean ancient builders used sound to levitate stones. There is no evidence for that. But it does suggest they may have understood sound in ways we are only beginning to rediscover. Another theory involves water. Water is heavy. It flows. It can be channeled. It can lift and shift enormous loads if used correctly. Ancient sites often include sophisticated water systems, hidden channels, drainage, reservoirs. At some locations, water engineering appears as advanced as stonework. This suggests a deep understanding of hydraulics. Yet these systems are rarely discussed with the same attention as the stones themselves. Because stone feels mysterious, water feels familiar, and familiarity can hide complexity. Then there is geometry, sacred geometry, proportional systems, ratios that repeat across cultures. Circles, triangles, spirals. These shapes are not decorative. They are functional. They distribute weight. They create stability. They encode information. Geometry does not require machines, only minds. And ancient minds had time. Generations observing the same sky, the same land, the same cycles. Modern life accelerates knowledge. Ancient life deepened it. This difference matters. Another controversial idea is that some megastructures served as markers, not just of time, but of danger. Certain sites align with fault lines, others with floodplains, others with areas of magnetic anomaly. Some researchers suggest ancient people encoded environmental knowledge into monuments. Warnings passed forward in stone. If the land floods every few thousand years, if the sky burns at intervals, if the earth shifts, build markers that survive, build stories that persist, build memory into matter. This idea is speculative, but not impossible. Modern societies store critical information digitally. Fragile, ephemeral. Ancient societies stored memory physically, in stone, in myth, in ritual, which lasts longer. As we move toward the quieter end of this exploration, one truth becomes clear. Ancient megastructures are not puzzles to be solved once. They are conversations across time, between builders and observers, between intention and interpretation, between what was known and what is remembered. We may never fully understand how every stone was moved, or why every wall was built. And that is acceptable, because history is not only about answers, it is about humility. The humility to accept that we are not the first to wonder, not the first to build, not the first to forget. As you listen, let these thoughts slow. Let certainty loosen. Let curiosity remain gentle. The stones do not demand belief, only attention, and attention given quietly is enough. Ancient megastructures still stand among us. We drive past them, fly over them, scroll past images of them, and yet they remain strangely distant, because they do not fit neatly into modern life. They remind us of patience, of effort measured in generations, of goals that outlived their builders. In a world of speed, they speak slowly. Perhaps that is why they feel unsettling. They suggest that human achievement is not only technological, it is cultural, psychological, spiritual. These builders were not chasing efficiency. They were expressing meaning. Meaning carved into landscapes. Meaning aligned with the sky. Meaning built to endure collapse. What would modern society build if permanence were the goal? Would we choose concrete, steel, data, or would we choose stone? There is another lesson hidden in these megastructures. They reveal cooperation on a scale that transcends individual reward. No single person could claim credit. No single lifetime could witness completion. This kind of building requires trust, shared vision, belief that the future matters. In that sense, ancient megastructures are acts of hope. Hope that someone would come after. Hope that knowledge would persist. Hope that meaning would survive. And in many ways it has. Not perfectly, not completely, but enough. Each generation rediscovers these places, reinterprets them, argues over them, protects them. The story continues. And maybe that is the point. Not that we solve the mystery, but that we remain engaged with it. Because when curiosity dies, history becomes decoration. When curiosity lives, history becomes dialogue. As science advances, tools improve. As perspectives widen, interpretations shift. What seems impossible today may be obvious tomorrow. And what seems settled may reopen. This is not failure. It is progress of a different kind. Progress that deepens understanding rather than closing it. If ancient builders could speak to us now, they might not explain everything. They might simply watch, to see what we assume, what we dismiss, what we imagine. And in that watching, perhaps they would recognize us. Because despite the distance of time, the human mind has not changed. We still look at the unknown and ask why. We still build stories to bridge gaps. We still search for meaning in what outlasts us. And we still leave traces behind. Long after we are gone, someone will study our remains. Our cities, our monuments, our ruins. They will ask how we built them, why we built them, what we believed. They will be wrong about some things, right about others, and uncertain about most. And that is okay, because history is not a verdict. It is a conversation without an end. So as this journey slows, allow the mind to rest. You do not need answers tonight. You do not need certainty. Only the quiet understanding that humanity has always been more capable, more complex, and more mysterious than we assume. And that the past is not finished speaking. Thank you for spending this time with History for Sleep. If you found this journey calming or thought-provoking, you're always welcome to return. The stones will still be here, and so will the questions. For now, let the mind soften, let the thoughts fade, and let the quiet remain.